This is the Ethereum 1-month overview reading for the month of March 2024. It's currently January 28th, 2024, 9:08 p.m. Eastern Time. Ethereum at the time of this reading is $2,265.03. That's USD. And the shuffle video that we are about to play for you was created on January 8th, 2024 at 8:52 p.m. Eastern Time. That's this video here in the lower left corner. So the overall theme and behavior for Ethereum in March is an overbought peak that we sell off from pretty notably through multiple support levels on at least a 1-month chart scale, like on a multi-day scale. It's crossed with the moon card, which is one of the bigger decline cards of the deck. It's not the biggest, but it's pretty significant, and usually there's some bearish price swings involved in a sharp drop. And so that's actually crossed with the unicursal in the theme card position, which I've seen for so many March readings, March and February. I'm just seeing a ton of unicursal, but in any case, what that indicates is a pretty significant drop off of an overbought crest or peak on a multi-day scale. Behavior around the highest high or highs for the month. We have a decline to and through support to meet a second support that's on a multi-day scale, and then we rotate sideways along that support out of the high. Behavior around the lowest low or low for the month. The devil card indicates some sort of intentional fake out or shakeout of some kind intended to make the retail investor do the wrong thing impulsively. So be very, very careful around the lows. Usually when you see the devil card in a low position, what it's indicating is that they'll make technicals, the market makers will make technical chart behavior indicate that we're going to break through previous lowest lows, but instead we end up turning around. There's like a fake out there. So be very, very mindful. The fact that's in a low significator position in a March reading, it could indicate a significant low on a 1-year chart scale, but we'll get into that in more detail when we get into the paid version. Before we go any further, guys, I want you guys to understand. So we're going to go through the chart behavior by the day by day, throughout the entire month. We're going to time where the highs and the lows are and where we think the highest of them is and where we think the lowest of them is. And we're going to do that all to the day, usually with 98% average accuracy. We're not right all the time, so be careful, but we're right most of the time. We're going to get into that in just a second. And the highs and the lows we save till the very end of the interpretation, so keep that in mind. I want everybody to be aware, though. The whole purpose of the channel is to transmute some of the competitive energy of the stock market into goodwill. We do that by following the rule of karma for the channel. You go to the resources tab of our website, Tarot for Traders, and 5% of the profits from every profitable trade utilizing this information should be donated forward to one of these charities, or pick a charity of your choosing as long as you're paying 5% forward, and then 5% should be sent back to the channel through one of these links. If you're international, you can use Wise or you can use YouTube tips, and that leaves you at 90%. Make sure to spend that 90% out of love. As long as you follow those rules, you follow the rule of karma for the channel, the universe considers you an angel investor. It's going to send it back to you tenfold for following through. Blessings to all my angel investors. Let's get back into it. Each of these cards going left to right across the screen, they represent 1 day of time, 1 calendar day of time, but not each card's energy will necessarily line up perfectly with 1 calendar day of time. So you have to give it, in some cases, the timing a little plus or minus a day of wiggle room. And in cases where that does happen, which is occasionally, make sure to follow the sequence of events as outlined by the prediction, because that will remain accurate even when we're off by a day here or there. When you see us off by a day here or there multiple times, that's a bad reading. It happens very, very rarely. Usually when we're off by plus or minus a day, it's just for a day, and then we're back on course as far as timing. So just keep that in mind, guys. It looks like we have a significant high for this at the start of the month, where we're crossing back and forth 3 times through the same price level on a multi-day scale. The third time is to the upside. Usually when you see it, the virtue card, it indicates a confirmation of a bullish trend, and it looks like that's the case here, because on the second there's a breakout on a multi-day scale, taking us to another prominent peak or crest early in the day on the third. Sharp drop off of that peak on the third, and we're into a trough probably by the end of the day on the third. On the fourth, we have a rally into key resistance on a multi-day scale, and then we break down from that resistance with consecutively lower spikes up on the way down, taking us into a trough right on the cusp of the 4th, 5th. And then there's some sort of price swings going on the 5th, and a near overbought crest that forms on the 5th, and that's a significant trade opportunity that I'll talk about in more detail in the paid version. We sell off from that near overbought crest pretty notably. That's where you see that unicursal hexagram energy, so be very, very mindful of that. It's followed by the Magus card, so there's probably a lot of movement there. All right, so that decline continues through the 6th into the 7th, and on the 7th, early in the day, there's a prominent peak on a 1-month scale that it looks like we decline to revisit a support that we recently met once before. More decline on the 8th through multiple support levels, and then on the 9th, there's an important resistance level highlighted. That's important on a multi-day scale. Looks like a prominent crest towards the end of the day on the 9th. And then there's likely another sharp drop there. When I look at the Bitcoin reading, when I compare the two, there's a peak here on the 10th in Bitcoin, right? And then we have a significant unicursal drop on the 11th. And it looks like there's probably a sharp drop off of a peak here. That's probably what that peak is, or that prominent peak there on the 9th at the end of the day at an important resistance level. Yeah, so pretty sharp decline on the 10th into a prominent trough towards the end of the day. We do some sideways rotation on the 11th. There's another trough early in the day on the 11th, with that's the sideways rotation. And then that sideways rotation takes us into another prominent trough on the 12th, out of which we have this fast sudden move higher on a multi-day scale, ending that period of sideways rotation. And it'll be in the face of some pretty negative chart behavior or negative headwinds or both that would make one expect for us to go lower, but instead that trough forms there midday on the 12th. and we moved significantly to the upside. On the 13th, however, we have sideways fluidity, equal amounts of bulls and bear, inflow and outflow, so that usually indicates some sort of price swings. Sometimes it's a narrow range along support, but often you'll find that it's price swings along support. And we have another prominent trough in there on the 13th. Big move to the upside on the 14th, followed by a full retracement back down before the end of the day there on the 14th. And then on the 15th, we have another period of sideways rotation along a key support level on a multi-day scale. And there's a prominent peak. So that's a prominent peak on the 15th. There is some possibility that it's a revisiting of a high, but I think it's pretty unlikely. I mean, the moon card does indicate that we could have some bearish price swings in here, so there's a possibility of it based on correlations, but my sense is that it's not. It's just the prominent peak there. And it's followed by another prominent trough on the 16th that takes place after a significant decline. Around the 16th, there should probably be a significant decline on it'll stand on a multi-day scale, and then a lot of price change on the 17th. Usually when you see the Princess of Swords, there's a key resistance level on a multi-day scale there that we should do a lot of price change back and forth into and out of that resistance, creating opportunity to trade both directions at separate times. And I'll talk about that. If that is the case, I'll talk about that in more detail in the paid version. But you can see how we've got this prominent peak around the cusp of the 17th, 18th, and there's an important price level highlighted. It's hard to say if that important price level is going to take place on the 17th or if it takes place on the 19th, but it's probably on the 17th. It'll be important on like a 1 year chart scale, minimum. Price level of the 17th, 18th. A lot of trade opportunity between the 15th, the 17th, 18th, 19th. I'll talk about all that in more detail in the paid version. Guys, if you're interested in the paid version, matter of fact, before we go any further, let's take a look at January and see how we're doing. I think this is one of our more solid readings. Okay, so we had a lowest low thus far on the 2nd, and it ended up being on the 3rd, but there's definitely a lowest low there. All right, and then that's followed by a notable, so out of that low, we have a prominent peak, and I have it here for the 5th, ends up being on the 5th, another prominent peak on the 7th. That candle, that little wick indicates one. Price swinging, and then this big Magus move on the 9th really started on the 8th, but that Magus move took us all the way to an important range on the 10th, 11th, and we have a highest high for the month here between the 12th and the 13th. And you can see how we had a prominent peak on the 11th, we had a prominent peak on the, on the 10th, on the 11th, and then on the 12th, we had a highest high with the intraday move to the upside. And then from that, we declined to and through support to meet a second support and then rotate sideways along that support. This is solid reading, guys. We went into lowest lows, and then we also had another lowest low here on the 6th, 7th. We came pretty close there. I left that out, but that's pretty solid stuff. Taking us back after these highs here that we had some more prominent peaks around the 18th, 19th. Two of them, looks like we were off a little bit by like a day there, but even so, we then dropped into lowest lows on the 23rd. I have it for the 22nd, 23rd. And then another prominent trough around the 26th, 27th. You can see how that took place. Advised to be cautious on the 28th. Unicursal hexagram decline on the 29th. So this is probably where we see another pretty significant drop. We'll see tomorrow, but it looks like we probably have a pretty significant drop here. Either today, later in the day, tomorrow, later in the day. So like on the 29th. Or it'll be the following day. I'd be very, very careful. You guys won't see this till after, but if you follow along with the paid version from the previous month, then you'd already know about it. So with that said, this is like almost 100% accurate, guys. This reading was conducted October 25th, 2023 at 2:34 p.m. Eastern time. If you opened up a position here on the 6th at the end of the day in the midst of the lowest low, you open up a long position, you would have been able to close that long position. Probably the 11th would have been the best day to do it, and that's how it was instructed. And then on the 12th, you would have opened up a short position, closed it on the 14th. That would have been a pretty solid gain as well. I mean, these are solid trades that you would only know about if you had the paid version of the January reading, my friends. And the way that you get access to that, a ton of information that you won't find anywhere else in the world, only found ahead of time here at Tarot for Traders and the Investor Profit, my friends. You get that on our website, tarotfortraders.com. Hover over our services, click on SO Meta Posts. Scroll down to monthly subscription, click here to order, and this is for the Ethereum reading. Guys, $111 for priceless information that nobody else on the planet will have. Only people with the subscription at Tarot for Traders for the Ethereum reading will know about these trades. Nobody else has this info, and we're posting it months in advance. It's $111? Are you joking? So check it out, and if you're interested in the info for more than just that ticker, but maybe some of these other tickers, the most popular subscription on the website is this 30 days access to all paid monthly predictions. You also get Amazon, Google, and Nvidia when you subscribe to that one. It's the only way to get those three tickers. But again, we run roughly a 98% average accuracy predicting highs and lows today. You give it a plus or minus a day in some cases, but the trades, even so, for the most part, are really, really solid. And so if you trade, like, you don't trade crazily because we're not right all the time, but if you trade responsibly utilizing this information, it gives you a superior edge, provided you know how to trade. So thank you to everybody that goes ahead and does that. These are the people that really provide the backing kind of financial, like the recurring financial backing that a channel needs to grow and be a real business. So much appreciation. You're a huge part, all those of you that go ahead and do this, and you better believe I know you guys by name. Let's get back into it. After that, important price levels met somewhere around the 17th, 18th, important on a one-year chart scale. There's a decline increasing with momentum moving forward into a trough early in the day on the 19th, out of which there's a big move to the upside, a rally increasing with momentum through the 20th, and then that turns into a period of volatility on the 21st with a sharp drop in that period of volatility, and then that turns into erratic behavior somewhere between the 21st and the 22nd, turns into erratic behavior back and forth through the same price level, important on a 1 month chart scale. In the midst of that erratic behavior, we usually revisit a crest that was recently a past opportunity, and it does look like there's possibly a crest around the cusp of the 21st, 22nd, or it could be the cusp of the 22nd, 23rd, or both. It's kind of hard to say, but there's erratic behavior there. And then on the 23rd, we have a notable decline through multiple support levels, taking us to an important trough on a 1 month scale on the cusp of the 23rd, 24th, out of which we rally along a diagonal trend line, and then that rally ends with rally along a diagonal trend line on the 24th with a fast sudden move higher that ends that rally, and then we break down through that diagonal trend line with increasing volatility on the way down, taking us into a trough. Okay, so there's two ways that this could play out here on the 25th, 26th, but we decline increasing with momentum on the 24th after that rally, decline increasing with momentum moving forward into the 25th, and at some point on the 25th, the rally could end with a big move from the bottom of a range all the way to the top of a range, and then that would be followed by, on the 26th, another significant move downward in a period of sideways rotation, significant move downward to another prominent trough for the month, or the decline from the 24th continues straight through the 25th into the 26th, and then in that significant trough there on the 26th, with this big move to the upside, taking us to another prominent peak early in the day on the 27th. We push the upper end of a range higher there on the 27th, and then on the 28th, there's 3 pokes through the same trend line, followed by a sharp drop after the third poke. So it's 3 pokes upwards through the same resistance and a sharp drop off of that third poke. Unicursal hexagram energy there again. That sharp drop is probably at the end of that sharp unicursal drop is probably at the end of the day on the 28th, and then out of a trough on the the cusp of the 28th, 29th, there is a rally along a diagonal trend line, breaking through horizontal resistance, meeting another resistance, and then pulling back to somewhere between those 2 price levels. That ends up being an important resistance highlighted on the 30th, or on the 29th, 30th, and from that resistance, we have another sharp drop, unicursal hexagram drop there to another prominent trough there on the 30th, and then there's key resistance on the 31st that's highlighted. It's resistance that we failed to break through many times before. The sneak preview for April, a sideways fluctuating rally that precedes a sharp decline on a multi-day scale. All right, guys, now as far as the highs and the lows, they're the highest highs and the lowest lows. Very, very likely the highest highs for the month are right here on the first, second, third. Probably the third, but it might be like a revisiting first and then into the second, third. But those first 3 days, very, very likely the highest high. There is some possibility that we revisit it somewhere between the 9th and the 15th, probably the 15th if we did, but I really don't think we're going to revisit it again. There's going to be peaks there, but they're not going to be. And then as far as the lowest lows, so the lowest of the lows I think is going to be here on the 25th, 26th, but it's probably going to be a revisiting. I'll talk about if I think it's a revisiting of another low or not in the paid version. And that's Ethereum for March 2024, my friends. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, make sure to follow that rule of karma. The channel's counting on you to do that. We need that support. We need that excitement in order to continue putting this content out. And hey, it's the whole purpose of the channel. So blessings to all my angel investors. Stay tuned if you got the paid version. I'll see you guys on the next one.